Hello there, I'm Nafisa Latic, and this is Across the Balkans. The golden age of relations. This is how the Serbian leader recently described cooperation between Ankara and Belgrade. Both presidents say their countries have raised relations to their highest level in modern history, covering everything from trade, tourism to infrastructure. Ties have strengthened following a number of meetings between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Serbian counterpart Aleksandar Vucic. During Erdogan's latest visit to Belgrade in September, Vucic expressed his desire to buy Bayraktar drones. And last week, after lifting visa requirements both ways, the two countries agreed to add new flights to more destinations. Mirjana Miladinovic reports from Belgrade.
Turkey's cooperation with Serbia has recently intensified, with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan visiting Serbia 3 times in the last 5 years. And they've each brought a number of agreements and stronger economic collaboration. The two presidents say that cooperation between the countries has never been better.
Rezultati koje smo postigli, a na kraju krajeva sve se meri rezultatima u prethodnom periodu, pokazali smo da smo odnose između Turske i Srbije uspeli da podignemo na veoma visok nivo, rekao bih najviši nivo.
Ekonomik ve ticari ilişkilerimiz işbirliğimizin adeta dinamosu niteliğini taşıyor.
Besides a deeply connected history, Serbia and Turkey are tied by much more than frequent diplomatic visits. So much so that their current period of relations has been dubbed the Golden Age.
Od kada je potpisan sporazum o slobodnoj trgovini između Srbije i Turske 2010. godine, mislim da je taj odnos drastično poboljšan, kao što su i nedavno državnici Srbije i Turske izjavili prilikom posete turskog predsjednika Beogradu. Nastupilo je to neko zlatno doba, baš što se tiče ekonomskih odnosa između Srbije i Turske. Tačnije, od kada je taj sporazum potpisan ekonomski, naš izvoz je porastao 10 puta u odnosu na period pre toga. I mislim da na prvom mestu možemo da kažemo da ta robna razmena je trenutno nekih 2 milijarde dolara.
Right now, 705 Turkish companies are active in Serbia, as well as 209 Turkish entrepreneurs. And these companies employ more than 10,000 Serbian citizens.
To mora biti povezano i sa generalno spoljnom politikom Turske, koja zbog toga što je velika privreda, ona je regionalna, da kažemo, sila i u ekonomskom i u političkom smislu, ona širi svoj uticaj. Turska na neki način ima priliku da pokaže kako na prostoru, na primjer, Zapadnog Balkana, taj svoj uticaj ona ostvaruje pre svega u ekonomskom smislu, koji znači razvoj celog prostora Zapadnog Balkana. I kada pogledate, pored Srbije, koja tu jeste ključna, kao što smo objašnjavali, treba se prisjetiti da je ova poseta u Srbiji bila jedna od 3 regionalne.
For Turkey, the Balkans are of growing importance due to trade, but also the possibility that the region will be its gateway to the European Union.
Mislim, vrlo moguće. Srbija se zaista nalazi na nekom dobrom geografskom putu, blizu ovih velikih nekih evropskih država. Drugo, u posljednjih godine vrlo razvijena infrastruktura, saobraćajna infrastruktura u Srbiji, ali sigurna sam da je ta strateška pozicija Srbije za Erdogana veoma bitna za investiranje, za otvaranje nekih njihovih fabrika, pogona. Sigurna sam da će odavde lakše mnogo otići dalje u Evropu i u svet. Ali i ti neki dobri odnosi, mislim, Srbije sa drugim nekim zemljama, od Kine, Rusije, Evrope.
Thanks to a number of agreements between the two countries, goods can now be exported and imported duty-free, and in some cases at preferential prices.
The total trade volume between Serbia and Turkey for the first 6 months of this year amounted to $1.2 billion, an increase of more than 50% compared to the same period last year. It's a huge jump if you consider that just a decade ago, a total trade between the two countries amounted to just $600 million.
Apart from the exchange of goods and large projects, tourism between the two countries is also on the way up. From this month, people from Serbia and Turkey can travel and with only an identity card. But even without that, tourism has flourished. Available data says that this year 300,000 people from Serbia spent their vacation in Turkey.
Ja se bavim uopšte Turskom punih 12 godina, tako da imam nekako široku sliku što se tiče ove teme vezano za turizam generalno. Pre 12 godina kada sam prvi put kročio u Tursku nisam ni očekivao da će Turska doživeti ovoliki boom kakav je danas. Tada smo krenuli sa nekih 8.000 ljudi iz Srbije, a danas smo došli do negde blizu 40.000 iz Srbije koje dolaze preko naše agencije ovde. Kako izgleda turizam pre nekih 12 godina? Moram reći da je tada Turska izbacila taj all-inclusive koncept, prva na svetu, jel? I od tada kreće abnormalni rast ovog cijelog tržišta. Turska sve radi planski, pa tako i se bavi turizmom.
According to Atanasov, Turkey is even beginning to nudge in the race to become first choice for Serbian holidaymakers.
Pogotovo sad kad se ukinuo ovaj ulazak sa pasošima u ove zemlje, mislim da će da doprinese mnogo. Definitivno razmjera turizma, turističkog kapitala biće velika u narednim godinama i mislim da će biti sve više i više dostupnija našem narodu. I definitivno mislim da će Turska i Srbija biti u ozbiljnim vezama u narednim godinama.
And it's not just in tourism. Everyone agrees that although the two countries now enjoy a golden age of relations, their ties will only strengthen in the future.
Mislim da oni žele da se tu prikažu kao jedna država koja pre svega ima interes da ekonomski podrži region, iz čega će proisteći i drugi njeni interesi koje ona želi tu da unapredi na neki način. Dakle, pre svega kroz ekonomsku saradnju je, na primjer, što je vrlo zanimljivo, recimo u Srbiji se značajno uči turski jezik, ta popularna kultura iz Turske u vidu određenih filmskih sadržaja, određene muzike, značajno je prisutna i ovde. Tako da na neki način mislimo da je upravo time Turska pokazuje jednu efikasnu spoljnu politiku, možda za razliku od onoga kako je bilo u nekim drugim zemljama u njenom neposrednom okruženju.
Turkey has significant investments in the Balkans, from tourism, banking and media to industry, energy, health and education, and has even leased a number of airports.
In this post-pandemic period now marred by the conflict in Ukraine, past political differences have become lost in the background, as economic relations now emerge as the most potent strategic weapon. And it's something both Serbia and Turkey are looking to develop for the long term. Mirjana Miladinović, TRT World, Belgrade, Serbia.
My guest today is Vuk Vuksanović. He is a senior researcher at the Belgrade Center for Security Policy. Before that, he worked at the Serbian Foreign Ministry. Vuk, great to have you with us again on Across the Balkans.
Thank you.
Why do you think Ankara is investing more and more in Serbia?
I think that the logic is pretty straightforward. I think that Turkey's government has recognized that at this moment in time, Serbia is probably more easier business environment for Turkish investments compared to most of the Serbia's neighbors. And while probably at this moment in time, Turkey is still not the biggest investor in either Serbia nor in the Balkans, but the growth is significant nevertheless, which does tell you that there is a very powerful degree of pragmatism, because while many believe that Turkey would probably favor investing in Bosnia over investing in Serbia because of the cultural ties, it appears that the Turkish government is actually very pragmatic and very analytical in choosing where to invest. And as a result of this, Serbia has become the main recipient of Turkish investments in the Western Balkans.
Vuk, I'll go back to economy a little bit later, but I want to go back to Bosnia, as you mentioned there. Both countries are very much concerned about what is happening in Bosnia, countries facing one of the worst political crises since the end of the war. How do you see Ankara and Belgrade's role in keeping the region stable in the wake of the conflict in Ukraine and its impact it has on the Western Balkans and specifically on Bosnia?
Bosnia is definitely part of the rubric when it comes to Serbo-Turkish ties. I think that Ankara does perceive Belgrade as important, not just for stability of Bosnia, but also for the stability of the entire region. Behind closed doors, we would frequently hear Ankara saying that despite all the disagreements, Serbia is vital for Turkey as a partner in preserving regional stability. So on that point, Bosnia fits into that rubric, and frequently there are talks that, for example, in any political compromise regarding Bosnia, Ankara can leverage the Bosniaks, while Belgrade can potentially leverage Bosnian Serbs. Of course, the politics in Bosnia is probably much more complicated than these simplistic views, but nevertheless, Ankara believes that it is important to preserve a channel of communication open with Belgrade on both the stability in Bosnia, but also on the general regional security in the Western Balkans.
And when we talk only about Ankara-Belgrade relations, seems like the both countries focused more on the economy and left the past political differences aside at this point.
There is, I think, this is a demonstration that the lead elites in two countries, both leadership are actually as practical and pragmatic as it can be described in words. And I think that the foundation for this was laid during the President Erdogan's landmark visit to Serbia in late 2017, and that under the stewardship of Erdogan, it has in a sense profited because Erdogan has essentially demonstrated that he can be a very effective power broker who is practical and pragmatic, and who has no qualms about communicating with everybody. So on one hand, Ankara has profited significantly, showing that it is not only an effective partner for Muslim communities in the Balkans, but at the same time it has also embraced Serbia, which because of its size and strategic geography still is being considered a strategically pivotal country in the region. So in a sense, Erdogan's main asset of Turkey at this moment in time when it comes to its Balkan policy is its capacity to communicate with everyone and to do business with everyone without endangering anyone's historical or cultural sensitivities.
As we mentioned in the story before you, Serbian President Vucic called the relations with Ankara at the moment a golden era, a golden age of relations. Would you say the war in Ukraine and what we've seen happening in Europe in the past couple of months and rising energy prices brought these two countries even closer?
Well, when it comes to energy, we have to underline that energy and probably migration were always topics which were high on the agenda of bilateral ties between Serbia and Turkey. I mean, even during late 2017, during the mentioned Erdogan's visit to Belgrade, both the control over migration flows as well as the energy flows because of the Turk Stream pipeline project were high on the agenda of two presidents. And now, of course, when we are seeing a major crisis in both the price of energy, commodities, as well as the risk of a new migrant waves coming from Middle East or North Africa into Europe and via Balkans, maintaining a strong channel of communication between both Belgrade and Ankara is absolutely there. But when it comes to the war in Ukraine, I can definitely say that while, for example, Turkey and Russia in the Balkans never essentially clashed because there was always this type of modus vivendi between two powers. I don't infringe of your terrain, you don't infringe of mine. So I'm not seeing any sort of rivalry between Turkey and Russia, but we can definitely say that as a result of the war in Ukraine, with Russia being bogged down in Ukraine at this moment in time, this will probably mean that other players like China and Turkey will probably profit from this crisis, and that they will probably use this opportunity to boost their bilateral ties with local nations, with Serbia, of course, standing out as the most important one.
What would you say, Vuk, is the main Turkey's investment in Serbia at the moment? Is that the Belgrade-Sarajevo highway that is being built jointly by Serbia and Turkey?
I think that this, in symbolical terms, I think this is probably the landmark Turkish project in the region, which of course connects what are at this moment in time two most important countries in the Balkans for Turkish foreign policy, which are Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So yes, this is absolutely symbolical about where the Turkish priorities are at this moment in time in the region.
Vuk, finally, 6 months after the election, Serbia has a new government. Many critics are calling it extremely pro-Russian, as some of the pro-Western ministers are not part of it. How is the new parliament looking from your perspective?
Well, I will tell you, I mean, there have been some monumental changes, because we have seen some pro-Russian ministers as well, who are no longer a part of the new government, but we have also seen some figures which were deemed pro-Western, which are also not part of the new government, like Minister of Interior Aleksandar Vucic. However, we do see some contradictory appointments. I mean, the new foreign minister Ivica Dačić is considered to be pro-Russian, and he will also be coordinator of intelligence services. While on the other hand, the new Minister of European Integration, Stanja Miščević, is considered one of Serbia's premium experts on EU integrations. So in a sense, the new government sends different signals to different players in the international arena. But nevertheless, despite these personal appointments, I don't think that this will be that much important, because there will still be a continuity in Serbian foreign policy. All the major foreign policy decisions will be made by one man and one man alone, which is Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic. While at the same time, I think that this policy of balancing and playing off the West and Russia against each other will continue. But of course, I don't think that it will have any bearing on bilateral ties between Serbia and Turkey.
And we mentioned also that no more passport requirements between Turkey and Serbia. Does this mean even more business to be happening here in Turkey as well as in Serbia, and more tourists coming here from Serbia?
When it comes to bilateral economic ties, I expect that tourism will certainly be one of the areas where the cooperation between the two governments will be strengthened. I mean, even during the 1990s, when, of course, because of the war and because of the sanctions, Serbs had very few places to travel. Turkey was a popular tourist destination, and it was a popular tourist destination afterwards in the years when Serbia was still not given visa liberalization by the EU. But nevertheless, I expect that this will also be a boon for the growth in the number of Serbian tourists in Turkish resorts. And we have also seen that it goes both ways, as we have seen both the arrival of Turkish businesses, but also some Turks who were willing to emigrate and move to Serbia and to other Balkan locations. So I expect that tourism and people-to-people connectivity will also increase in the coming period.
Vuk, thank you. We'll keep an eye on that relationship. Vuk Vuksanović, they're a senior researcher at the Belgrade Center for Security Policy. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
As we mentioned, Serbia has a new cabinet that has a mix of some old and new faces. President Aleksandar Vucic named a new government 6 months after his Serbian Progressive Party and coalition partners won parliamentary elections. The Prime Minister and Finance Minister remained the same, with the Foreign Minister replaced by former Parliament Speaker Ivica Dačić. Energy Minister Zorana Mihajlović, considered one of the leading pro-Western voices in Serbia, is not joining the new cabinet. although Prime Minister Ana Brnabić has said the new government won't be pro-Russian. And Bulgaria's fourth election has finally delivered a new parliament and a speaker. It's after last Wednesday's first sitting was postponed to the next day as the assembly had failed to elect a speaker. And without a speaker, parliamentary business cannot proceed. On the third day of the Bulgarian parliament's first session, Conservative MP Veski Rashidov was elected the chairperson. The standoff has once again marred progress in a country that has suffered from political gridlock for 2 years, as we reported so many times. And good news for Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, as both the Western Balkan countries are about to allow freedom of movement with just identity cards. In a meeting with EU ministers last week, foreign ministers of 6 Western Balkan countries agreed to a number of deals, including the abolition of visas. This mostly affects Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, as they are the only countries that still require visas. The agreement is expected to be signed during the Berlin process on November 3rd, and after that, people from all Western Balkan countries will only need their ID cards to travel around.
With these agreements, the people of your countries will be able to cross border in the Western Balkans using only their ID cards. Secondly, universities will recognize each other's diplomas, and your employers will accept professional qualifications from the region. Again, that might sound like technicalities, but these are historic steps. Historic steps that change people's life.
Let's turn our focus to a controversial film that was cancelled in many European cities, Republika Srpska, The Struggle for Freedom. The documentary by a Serbian-Canadian filmmaker is being denounced across Europe for allegedly whitewashing war crimes committed during the Bosnian War. A Canada-based institute has launched an online petition to stop the film's promotion, saying it denies the genocide in Srebrenica. In July 1995, Bosnian Serb forces led a campaign of ethnic cleansing, killing more than 8,000 Bosniak men and boys. The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia ruled the war crimes in Srebrenica were a genocide, but Serb politicians have regularly denied the court's conclusion. The film has provoked outrage online, where a petition has already been signed by more than 35,000 people. Let's take a closer look.
Neke su zastave njihove srpske počeli da mašu.
The strong resistance of the Serb soldiers was all a part of the same heroism that Jovan Vucic recognized. Republika Srpska isn't just a political entity. It's the necessary minimum for Serbs to survive in a land where they've always lived.
Want to piss off a Nazi? Boris Malagurski has created a neo-fascist documentary called Republika Srpska, The Struggle for Freedom. It seeks to detail the Serbian perspective of the Bosnian genocide. Except there is no Serbian perspective on the Bosnian genocide.
That's it for this week from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Thanks for watching Across the Balkans. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.